So, Ravi, I will start with asking you first question: why someone need a career coach?
Well, I think everyone needs a coach, whether you're a high performer, moving up steadily in your career, or you're really questioning what's next. There's always a deeper level of insight, wisdom, and capability in which people can operate. And something that's really great about coaching is it's a chance to explore and really uncover additional talents, skills, and capacities, both for yourself and if you're working with a team or company, how you can be even more in service of others. And I think that's where even people who have great careers that are happy, that are satisfied, if you see a need to be more in service to your world, which the world right now needs people to help the world, coaching can help. And on the flip side, if you're struggling or you're facing a decision point in your career, coaching can help bring a level of clarity that can really make a difference for anyone's career, no matter where they are, whether they're even pre career in college or even in retirement. I've coached people in retirement as well. So I believe everyone needs a coach, no matter how successful you are.
You are a career coach or you are an executive coach, because there are different kind of coaches out there, right? Give me some definition on these different kind of coaching is available for people.
Right. So if I zoom out for a second, there is consulting, there is mentoring, there's of course mental health psychotherapy on one side, and there's coaching. And so typically people in business have mentors, people who have walked a path who have advice to give. Or maybe they hire a consultant to help them with a specific issue, maybe a technical issue with their team or setting up a business or how to grow and expand a team, those things. What makes a coach different? And I consider myself an executive coach because I'm coaching people who primarily are leaders. They're leading teams, sometimes small, sometimes big. They could be an owner, they could be an executive in charge of a large division, or they could be a high performer at a small company who even aspires to higher levels of leadership. And so executive coaching is really what I call myself. But coaching is truly about helping people uncover and discover what they want ultimately. So what they want, if they're leading a team, if they're running a career, if they're building a business, what is it they actually want? And then how can they access their deepest resources to move down the path towards what they want? And if they discover what they really thought they wanted isn't what they want, course correct if possible. And so, as an executive coach, I consider myself really helping people tap into their own natural potential. And so, most executive coaches I know, ultimately what they're doing is helping people uh, uh, connect with and resonate with their own capabilities. And it may involve some teaching, helping with communication, connection, certain leadership skill, certain decision making skill. But at the end of the day, it's about helping people really trust themselves to a much deeper capacity. And so that's what makes coaching unique relative to mentors who will typically give you advice or share what they've done or share a recipe, so to speak. Coaching is about uncovering your own best recipe through dialogue and through really exercises with a coach. I've worked with teams, I've worked with individuals as well. And uh, hopefully that gives you clarity on the different types.
Yes, true. So how does it work? So suppose I come to you and I say that help me become a better executive.
Right.
So how does it work? Do you have multiple session with me, or are you going to shadow me on my job, attend meetings with me? How does it works?
Different coaches have different approaches. Now, in the time I have visited clients, I have sat in on meetings, I have, of course, even in the age of COVID, sat in on Zooms with teams. But the vast majority of my work is working with an individual, and different coaches have different styles. But the way I coach and many executive coaches work is it's a journey. And the real work is happening on the part of a client. So if I'm coaching you, the insight, the realization, the growth is happening in you. It really has less to do with me than you. And what's needed is time and some experience. And so that might be 3 months, 6 months, or a year. So when I work with clients, It's a process over a period of time, typically 3 to 6 months, where we're exploring more deeply what they want, where they can find their resources within themselves, what they have to work on, and then have enough exposure where they can start realizing both where they're off track and where they're on track. And so that's the process. It's a journey over time. And during that time, I like to have a series of conversations with whoever I'm coaching, where we'll help them get clarity, help them realize how to work better with themselves. And then as they go off and have their meetings, experiences, work on their, whether they're building a product as an engineering leader or building a plan as a product leader, marketing leader, where they go and they live their world, develop some insight through reflection, and then come back to the session and say, hey, here's what I'm noticing. Here's where I'm feeling stuck. Here's where I'm feeling clear. Let's talk about it and move forward. And so it turns out, as a coach, I don't need to shadow anyone 24 hours a day. That wouldn't be
Hmm.
possible. It's helpful to meet in person, maybe drop in on a meeting, but a lot can happen by helping people, professionals, realize when they become more conscious to their experience, they can realize a lot. And that's what the
Hmm.
coaching journey is about. And so I work with clients over an extended period of time because what I know is insights will occur. I just don't know on what day. And so if I
True.
give it some
Okay.
time, the progress can happen.
Okay. Seems like you give them some trigger points which they can watch for and then bring back the notes as such to you,
Right.
and then you can debug them.
Right. We have this curious capacity as human beings to be conscious. We can be engaged
True.
in an activity and also be conscious. Now, what's nice when
Hmm.
working with a coach is we start to widen what we become, what we start watching and looking for. So then, as a
Hmm.
client goes off to a meeting, or they're working with a new hire, or they're working with their boss, they'll start to notice a lot more. And then they come back to the
Hmm.
session and they can share what they're noticing, where they're feeling clarity or higher performance, where they're feeling stuck. And then that creates more coaching. And so that process just creates, it's really a simple process, but it
Hmm.
helps to have some patience and a little bit of time. But the thing about a coach is really trained to be able to listen and help point people to the right places to look and watch and be aware. And if there's any tool or technique to practice, there may be a few tools and techniques to practice along the way as well that can help with the progress.
Right, right. So as you said, you didn't say it, but I think you implied it that self-awareness is one of the very important aspect of human being. But often that's where we miss self-awareness. And if I'm not self-aware, how somebody can realize that they need an executive coach? Unless and until something really radical thing happened or somebody gave them some feedback. So I'm trying to figure it out, is somebody who is a executive in some company listening to us talking, how they can realize that they need your help or not. Do you have some kind of a list of self checklist that I will say, these are the things I'm missing, I should go and talk to them.
So I think there are a set of people who are just hungry for growth. And the jury's not out, the jury's in. Coaching has a payoff. Price Waterhouse Coopers did a study. They saw between 7 and 10% 7 and 10x ROI in coaching within about a year of completing coaching. I know Harvard's done some studies. There's the International Coach Federation, that's sort of the governing professional organization for coaching, where they've done various studies on impact. I have a whole page of uh, sort of feedback from clients I've worked with on my website, sharing the impact coaching has made on their work. But that said, I think there are some individuals that are hungry for growth, and they have a sneaking suspicion that they have more capability lying within them than is actualized in their experience of work day to day. And coaching is a great way to bring it out. Now, there are also people who maybe are right now hearing about coaching the first time, or they're already doing well. They're not sure they need a coach. And so that's where your question starts to become very interesting. And I think there are two questions that I ask myself and I often ask my clients, so I'll share them with you today. One is, how engaged are you in your work? If you were to say 1 to 10, how engaged are you? Would you say you're a 1? You're sort of clocking in, you're counting down the hours, you're multitasking, you're disengaged, you're not really focused in your work. Or 10, are you fully in when you're working? Are you fully engaged? Are you fully, whether you call it committed or present in meetings and fully captured by the work you're doing? Most of us day to day, it will vary a little bit, but if you just keep note of that over the course of a few days over the month, you'll start recognizing, are you highly engaged or not? I mean, there's a problem with disengagement in the workforce today. Gallup has done studies and shown that about two-thirds, it varies between two-thirds and 80% of the global knowledge worker workforce is disengaged. In fact, roughly a third are actually so disengaged they're hurting the companies they're at. So,
Hmm.
the question, I just like to keep things simple. Are you engaged or not? And that's something you can start being conscious of. Now, the second is an important thing that in coaching I view as um, a missing link or a point of leverage for people, which is, what's your feeling? What's your state of mind like when you're working? Are you
Hmm.
on a 1 to 10? 1, 10 being good, 1 being not good. As a 1, are you stressed? Are you pressured? Are you insecure? Are you questioning yourself? Are you uneasy? Are you feeling like you're lacking capability? Or 10, are you trusting? Are you alive? Are you joyful? Are you happy? Are you trusting your capabilities to deal with whatever uncertainty is in front of you? And so, how engaged are you? And what's your state of mind? What's the feeling? You can just do a quick 1 to 10 on both. Do that once a week. You'll start realizing if you're disengaged, or maybe you're highly engaged, but you're completely frustrated and stressed, or you're highly engaged, but you're not trusting your capability. All of those are signals that coaching can help. Find work where you're fully engaged and find a way of operating in whatever you do where you have more peace of mind. And here's a little secret, maybe a bonus for your listeners. It turns out, despite what people might say on social media, when we have peace of mind, our performance is much, much better. And so that's really something to understand on those two questions. And it's why I think everyone needs a coach, maybe not all the time, but at certain points in their career, it's worth hiring a coach. I've worked with coaches on and off for the past 20 years. It's why I'm a coach and left my career as a leader at Microsoft to be a coach. Um, it really is a calling for me, and I believe it can help.
Perfect. No, I think that's a very, very good tip you gave, that being a happy mind in a happy state, it spills around everywhere, at your work also and your performance everywhere.
It's counterintuitive, and we're not in a culture necessarily where that's reinforced. And so to have a direct experience of that and trust in that is incredibly helpful. And also to, in a way, set a higher standard for what the work is. If we're in a work, in a job, in a career where we aren't having that experience, I think it's worth asking, how do we want to spend our precious hours working? Most of us spend a third to a half of our waking hours working in our prime years. And so, if we want to make a bigger impact, it pays to find a way where we can have an enjoyable experience. So that's a big part of how I coach as well.
Okay. So, Ravi, what is the definition of executive? Why I ask this question is it I have to be some VP or C level person in some company to come to you, or I can be a dev lead or just become manager, or I'm a some senior dev? Can I
Yeah.
still come to you? And second part of the question is, which you can answer if you choose to now, can I afford you? That's also a very big question, because people, when they were hear about executive coach,
Yeah.
seems very expensive thing. It's some kind of luxury. Big companies, big titles can afford it. So I want to know
Yeah,
from
I think
you.
those are fair questions. So first, the reason I'm an executive coach is because in the coaching industry, typically, there's life coaching. Now, the truth is I coach human beings. I view people as human beings. I don't view people as titles. However, when people are looking to hire someone, there's executive coaching, relationship coaching, life coaching, career coaching. Typically, when someone says they're a pure career coach, they might be tuning a resume, doing some interview prep, like those things. Executive coaching is more of an umbrella for a set of skills that any leader, senior leader who has a broad scope of responsibility, where they're getting work done not just through them, but through others. That's an executive coach. So it could be communication, could be team structure, could be decision making is really big, resilience, right? Executive presence. Those are the kinds of things. And so executive coach fits when people search online for a coach, they type in executive coach, that's what they do. If someone needs someone to tune their resume or just help them prep for an interview, I've done those things, but that's not squarely what I do. So executive coach points to those types of skills. Now, in terms of who
Mhm.
I work with human beings. Most of the human beings work in tech, and most have management responsibility directly or indirectly. Most happen to run teams, but I also have clients who do not run teams. They are, fresh out of undergrad. I've coached people fresh out of undergrad. I coached a PhD candidate in physics. Um, I've coached senior engineers, principal engineers. I've coached partners at Microsoft. I've coached VPs at, we used to call it FANG, but I think now it's Gamma, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Meta, and Amazon, right? So,
Correct.
so I've coached all levels. I've coached owners of mid-sized companies before as well. The thing
Mhm.
I really so I coach a broad spectrum. For most, they have either direct or indirect responsibility where they have to get work done not just through themselves but through others. And the question I always ask someone when I meet with someone to see if we're a good fit is, what are they looking for out of coaching? Are they interested in learning? And are they interested in elevating their career along ways I can help them? If the answer is yes, and of course I do charge for my services, if they're open to paying and I think I can help them, then we'll go for it. And I've learned that, in fact, some clients I've coached who are early career, say a senior engineer, have now become executives in the time I've been coaching. I've been coaching now almost 7 plus, almost 8 years. And so a lot happens in that time. And I've still worked with clients who I've worked with in the first year. So that's a little bit of it, what to look for. But
Okay.
people, hopefully, that gives people an idea of what to search for when they're looking for a coach.
Sure, sure. I think the best way is to reach to you and then have a discussion with you and then find out if it's a good fit or not. And then from there, you can go and figure it out whether you can afford uh,
Right,
each other or
right. I have
not.
different ways I work. I work one on one, which is a bit more expensive. It
Sure.
takes more time, but it's a better, deeper engagement. I also
Mhm.
have a group program. So I do periodic cohort based 6 week program for anyone who's looking to elevate their performance. You could be a leader or want to be a leader. And I've run 2 cohorts. I have my third running in September this year. And so that's more affordable. It's 6 weeks. It's interactive. You'll get to meet great people. You'll level up skill that will help you in your life, help you in your career choices, help you in your leadership. It's a lot of fun. And so that's a much more affordable way to get access to coaching with a group and meet a peer group outside of one on one.
Oh, that's nice to know. So this 6 week program, how is it? Is it weekend classes or every day few hours? What is
So I
the
have
schedule?
Tuesday classes, so I gear it around Pacific time in the US. But our last cohort, we had folks from Europe, we had folks from South Africa, we had people all over join. And so it's a Tuesday after, well, it's 5 p.m. Pacific time. So I spend 90 minutes. It's a live interactive class. The cohort, our last cohort was 20 people. We shoot for 20 to 30 people. So it's an interactive class on Tuesdays. Thursdays is an Ask Me Anything office hours, the same time. If you can't make it, everything's recorded. We also have a private group where people can connect. You're also paired up into small pods where you can meet outside of class time to reflect on the material. And each week builds and helps people understand how to access more of their capability to be more effective communicators, decision makers, and leaders. And so in 6 weeks, a lot can happen. After the 6 weeks, they're then part of my alumni group where we have periodic, right now we meet monthly, and we explore topics related to doing great work, excelling in leadership, and it's a great community where we have ongoing connection because 6 weeks a lot can happen, but really it's about the following months as things get put into practice. And so we have
Mhm.
that ongoing connection with the alumni group. So that's a really nice thing. Um, and 5 o'clock Pacific time can work for a lot of time zones.
Oh, perfect. It's good to know. Most probably, I'm going to join that. When you said it's starting in September,
Right. The next cohort
right?
will run September 13th through October
Okay.
for 6 weeks, and yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yeah.
Perfect. September 13 is my birthday, so it will be a good birthday gift for myself.
Absolutely, would be great to have you.
Okay, perfect. So one more question I have, Ravi, that as you coach many people, many executives at different level, different companies, so what is one big problem or mistakes you've seen these people, these executives making? If you can point out to
Yeah.
one biggest issue everybody has.
Yeah, I think people are you'll notice in our conversation there's a common theme. And the common theme is that we tend to look in the wrong places for capability, and we tend to get caught up in our environment. Even our senses as human beings are designed to draw us in, where we become reactive to circumstance. If we're seeking a solution, we'll look outside of ourselves for the solution, outside of our team for the resource, outside of our company for like the next product idea, and to realize that both an individual and if you're a leader, the collective of your team, there's tremendous wisdom, tremendous. And we misunderstand that there is that tremendous wisdom, more capability than is needed. And we're just not savvy enough. People aren't savvy enough to realize how to access it. And that it
Hmm.
tends to be more obvious when people are in a nice, peaceful state of mind. And so I think if
Hmm.
there's one thing people don't realize, I think people intuitively realize, but it doesn't become obvious in their day to day work, how important it is to A, start getting really curious around the internal, inside nature of their capabilities and their teams, and start paying attention to the connection between low pressure and high performance, well being and high performance, and find ways to create greater peace of mind really for themselves and their team, especially if you have a high stakes, high pressure decision where,
Right.
now in today's world, there's a lot of those to be made. So I think that's a misunderstanding. We're just looking in the wrong place for our answers. And this isn't me
Hmm.
just coming up with a great idea. People have said this for lots and lots of years. Um, and, but I think the time has really come for people to take that to heart. And it's a very simple message. It can pay dividends for anybody. And then there are infinite tactics and techniques to help people connect more to their own wisdom, connect more to the wisdom of their team, slow down and start noticing how their own state of mind impacts their clarity, their choice making, their um, ability to navigate circumstances. So I think that's the
Hmm.
main misunderstanding
Okay.
that people have right now.
Perfect. Yeah, this is really good because I always thought about that one must watch their own thoughts. And I learned this from Jaya Krishnamurti, Jiddu, the
Yeah.
philosopher. I was reading him since almost when I was in high school. And this is, I learned, and I think I'm trying to follow this thing for almost 20, 30 years. Watch my thoughts. It really helps. It's kind of debugging yourself, connecting the debugger and breaking at the point, like in computer, when there's a bug happen, you get the debugger hits the line of your code. So same way, if you keep watching your thought, you will see the anger, the jealousy, all those things arising in you. And if you are continuously watching it, you can clearly see all this coming up. So this is good. I think now I am understanding that with this small chat which we are having, I really need to join your coaching and figure it out more about myself.
It would be great to have you. And, I think your debugger analogy, here's the interesting thing. If you imagine the debugger running, and then you take your hands off the mouse, take your hands off the keyboard, and watch the debugger run. But then you start noticing that there's almost an intelligence that's going to debug it for you. Now,
Mhm.
that's something that, in most boardrooms, people would say, oh, well, you're talking about something that we don't quite understand what's going on there. Well, no, just bringing attention to something itself is a change agent. And
Yes.
so you'll watch. Let's say there's you have a conflict with another team. You're trying to build a product. You depend on a team. There's conflict. You start watching how you're feeling thought, and you just watch it without judgment. And you watch how you're getting in the way of finding the solution that would bring the teams together. And just by watching that, the mind starts to take care of itself. And it's
Right.
a self healing capacity of the mind. And that's the really nice thing. I think that's the flip side. We can either watch our bugs, the dysfunctions we have, or we can
Hmm.
turn the page over and watch the brilliance that the mind also has to naturally debug and solve. Now, what all this does is get us on a learning curve where we start getting over ourselves and our hangups. And it's a pretty simple process, but most things, I mean, Occam's razor, usually the simplest thing is true. But in workplace, it really makes a difference. It's like a superhuman quality to have this kind of relationship with yourself when you're in a high stress environment, because then you can just be peaceful and
Hmm.
get more done
True.
and enjoy your life
Yes.
and come up with better ideas. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me have last question. I just want to know a little bit about your background, how you got into this coaching, and what were you doing before this?
so I worked at Microsoft. The best way to explain it is most of my roles related to product management and strategy, though there was only a 3-year stretch where Microsoft had the title of product manager. So I did a variety of things. I worked on various versions of Windows. I worked on versions of Office. I worked on products that never saw the light of day, as sometimes happens if you work in tech. So I was there for 14 years, most time as a middle manager, and loved my work.
Mhm.
But I had an insight. So I had worked with coaches. Sometimes the company provided, sometimes I sought out myself. And I had an insight in a group coaching experience around wanting to do something different with my life. I wrote a blog post about it. This was a long time ago, many years ago. But I left my job at Microsoft not to become a coach, but because I had a sense of intuition, wisdom, saying it's time to move. I didn't know what was next. I ended up actually
Hmm.
traveling a bit with my wife. We sold a lot of our stuff. We backpacked around. And it occurred to me that I loved personal growth. Coaches have made a huge difference in my life. So while I decide what my next career will be, what my next job will be, why don't I start coaching? So I walked down the path and started coaching. Now here I am, whatever it is, 8 years later, and I haven't looked back. And so this is my
Hmm.
career. It's what I love to do. But I can't say it was fully planned at the start. But looking backwards, that I can connect the dots. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I just started my own practice working with people. Word is spread through the grapevine. Most of my clients work in tech. I've coached lots of people in tech over the past 8 years with a variety of challenges and ambitions. And, I just believe that coaching can make a real difference for people, and that's why I do it. And I
Hmm.
love being able to help people who are working in fast paced companies that are trying to do things that are really important. Technology is driving the world forward in many regards. And so if I can help
Right.
people make bigger impact and have their well-being and peace of mind in the process, I mean, that's worth it to me. So that's a bit of my
Okay.
journey and what's led me here. I'm based in Minnesota. We recently moved to Minnesota. Before that, I was in Redmond when I was at Microsoft. But I coach clients all over the world.
Okay, perfect. So awesome. This is very nice talking to you. And thank you very much for taking time to speak with us. And I'm going to put the link for your website so people can, approach you and help themselves.
Great. I appreciate that. My website's raviraman.com, RAVIRAMAN.com. It was a pleasure talking with you.